Welcome to Leveraging Inspiration, the Inspired Patent Podcast, where we help you understand and leverage your intellectual property. I'm your host, Wayne Carroll. I'm joined here with David Blackledge. We're excited to bring you insights and stories from the success and failures of others and teach you how to win at the game of intellectual property. Here's the disclaimer. We're attorneys, but this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. We are not providing legal advice, and nothing in this podcast should be construed as creating an attorney-client relationship. Welcome back, David.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about in this segment, this episode, choosing the right investors. I attended an angel conference many years ago, actually. They had angel investors as well as companies seeking investment that all came together, and there were different speakers. One of the speakers got up and said that if they're going to invest, they want enough control of the company that they could fire the founder or the inventor as the CEO if that was not a good fit for them to scale. Have you seen this kind of sentiment among angel investors?
You know, on the angel investor side, we typically want to get, if we're making a big investment, say we're giving someone $500,000 total for about 20% of the company, something like that. We probably ask for a board seat. So we're sitting in literally day to day looking at the budgets, the operations, and things like that. Do people have the opportunity to get rid of a CEO and such? That comes down to more likely a polite discussion, candidly, of, hey, you're a technician, you're an engineer, you should be the chief technology officer developing the product, but you're not a sales and marketing person. You need to bring someone in that does that. And again, good advisors will probably talk you through what's best for the business and what resources you need. But I rarely see where people would, in fact, companies, probably the founders of young businesses probably wouldn't agree to anything that would allow them to be fired. However, over time, as they sell more and more equity in their business, they can get to a point where they can be voted out of office. So it's not really a firing as much as they're voted out of office, or they're candidly cajoled into seeing that other people can grow the business and make them a lot of money, as opposed to the direction they're taking the company.
Yeah. One of the things I've heard as I've done coaching and learned in business, as the founder, you wear a lot of hats. To grow, oftentimes you need to figure out what's the next job you're doing that you need to fire yourself.
Right.
If you're the receptionist, you need to fire yourself as a receptionist and hire a receptionist. That might be the first step.
Yeah, clearly people have skill sets, and good advisors that are angel investors as well in your business will basically talk you through what you need. There's a lot of people out there, for instance, that are what they call fractional or part-time CFOs, chief financial officers. So people who are not literate in money, they can have someone just part-time. They couldn't afford one full-time, but they can have someone part-time who's fairly expert. That's a good example of bringing in people, third parties, not necessarily all third parties, full-time maybe as well, but bringing in other resources to complement the skill sets a founder has.
Okay. Now, besides money, what do angel investors often bring to the table?
And the biggest thing is that you're looking for, hopefully, is experience in the industry and contacts. Now, they don't come in saying, we're going to help you get more money, more investors and such. But the fact is, if you work with someone and get investment from someone on a large scale that has experience and expertise in a particular industry, the odds are that they know a lot of people. And a lot of those people have other contacts as well. So again, you're building a circle of advisors that understand that business area. And that goes, it's all to the good. When advisors understand your business, they understand the industry, and they have a lot of contacts for you to discuss basically how to do it correctly. I always say a good advisor on a 30-second phone call can save you a year of your life by saying, oh, don't ever do that. It doesn't work. And if you didn't know that, you'd lose a lot of time. A good advisor tells you to do smart things, but it also helps you to avoid doing things that are not smart.
Yes, there's definitely times looking back in my own career, I wished I would have gotten that 30-second advice to save me a year of heartache.
Yeah, I
So,
call it a circle of trust, getting advisors in various areas of expertise that you trust, and you can make that phone call. Now, advisors, they may be investors, they may be just advisors, but you compensate them still perhaps with equity in your business. But again, they're people that are of high integrity and high trust value that you can call when you need help.
okay. Is it appropriate when you're looking at an investor that's a potential working with them? Is it appropriate to look at their background, ask for references, and look at the prior companies they've worked with?
Typically, and this is true of all people recruiting anyone, we go to LinkedIn first. We read their successes and it's basically a good resume. Resumes aren't perfect and they don't always lead to a great hire or a partnership, but the more connections you have in the industry, the more you can make phone calls and it's not so much a reference check. It's, hey, is this person, helpful? Do they know sales and marketing and this particular technology we have? Things like that. So it's more of a growing your contact set within your industry is very, very important for that very reason.
Okay. I have seen cases where someone's working with another business that's providing funding for some of their business, so they're really an investor, and there's a disagreement of how much to spend on R&D or how much to spend on protecting intellectual property. Is that something that you can kind of get an idea of upfront, or is that just something you have to work through as it comes?
Clearly, the best answer is to work through it up front. And there's two things to do. One is to have conversations with those investors and expose your business plans under a non-disclosure, probably before they actually invest, a non-disclosure agreement. But talk them through what your plans are, and then you're basically having a good conversation with people that might be expert in your industry on what works and what doesn't work. The second thing is then once you have an agreement in place, you do have to have some kind of an equity document, a shareholder rights agreement, or an operating agreement, which lays out the relationship in writing. And that's very critical. So even if there's disagreement, if they have voting power, but they're not a majority vote, you keep winning, basically. But that's what investors are going to also be doing too. They're going to be listening to what your plans are for the business and saying, hey, we agree with your plans, that's great, or we disagree. And if you become intransigent and don't want to affect what other potential advisors and investors want, they'll probably just go elsewhere. So that's the negotiating part of it, is you're talking to people, hopefully, that have experience in your business, in your industry, and you're able to quantify that experience and put it into an agreement somehow of what rights they have as investors. And they will read every word of that, and they'll have their own attorneys look at it. But it is a negotiation. The good news is, if someone's doing that, you're negotiating with an investor for money, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're looking for an investor, from what I heard you say, you want to share with them as much of your plans, including your exit strategy, or at least the investor's exit strategy, the time to market if you're not in market yet, what kind of investments you're going to make in R&D, in marketing, in investing in intellectual property. And I think, what does the future of the company look like? Those are things that the CEO looking for an investor is going to bring to the table. If they don't discuss those, it might have problems down the road. Is there anything else something I missed?
No, I think that's pretty clear. and the investors will expect that. So the first meeting, the investors are going to look in and say, oh, good people, that might be good stewards of our money. The second meeting you have with investors, they're going to be asking all those tough questions, and you'll be talking through the business. Again, that becomes part of the investors agree with you enough, and then they may invest with you. So very, very important stage in the relationship.
Okay. So do you have any examples? And I don't know what kind of confidentiality you have. You've invested for a lot of years. Are there any great stories of a great partnership you had with anybody?
Well, actually, I conducted, I'll say in general terms, when I was in angel groups, I conducted the diligence on businesses for the investor group. And these are groups of maybe 75 to 100 people that are all accredited investors, high net worth individuals that will invest in a business. So I enjoyed that because I got to understand the business in great detail. And I actually present when you do due diligence, the pluses and minuses of the business. And that allows investors to ask more questions on, hey, Dave pointed this out. How are you going to address that? So that due diligence is very, very important. And that's the part of the analysis I enjoyed the most. And I made my investments actually too, but I've also stood in front of those large groups of people and said, I'm investing and this is a good investment. The people are good and everything else I look at seems to bear merit.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I have attended one or two of those angel events as people I've worked with have gone to present and I've gone with them. So they're, it's a group of powerful people that they're not super high up on the food chain, but they've made it. They've got enough money to safely invest without hurting themselves. And they want to oftentimes give back in a way while still making money themselves. Well, we're out of time. We're going to do one more episode this week, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. I'm Wayne Carroll. I'm here with David Blackledge, and this is Leveraging Inspiration.